Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time zone you happen to be in. I am very excited to be able to have a friendly conversation with Mickle Markets, who is I have noticed is one of our up and coming influencers in our awesome XRP Army community. And enough about me and the introduction. Let me just bring him in, and he and I are going to have a friendly conversation and just see where this goes. Hello, Mickle Markets. Would you like to introduce yourself to the community?
Yeah. Hey, Scott. Thanks for having me. Really excited to do this. For those of you who don't know, my name's Connor. I also go by Mickle Markets. I run the Mickle Markets YouTube channel, mostly cover XRP. I'm also on Twitter at mickle.xrp. And yeah, I just cover XRP, cover this Ripple SEC case a lot. Love the tech, love following this case. And yeah, it's all just super interesting to me. And ever since I found Ripple and XRP, I couldn't stop talking about that. I think that's most of us, though.
Well, I think that's awesome. Now, what I usually do, and we will get to your opinions about crypto and all that kind of stuff, but what I really like to kind of try and focus on more so is trying to get to know you a little bit better. Because I feel like that the more we all get to know each other in our community, the tighter the bond will be between us. So my first question, Connor, is 5 years ago, did you ever in your wildest dreams ever think that you were going to be on a interview with your own YouTube channel covering a cryptocurrency?
100% no. I didn't know what cryptocurrency was. I didn't know what investing was. I barely touched YouTube. So this is all very, very new to me, but it's been a very pleasant surprise in my life. It's been awesome. All my followers have been incredible. Everyone else in the XRP community. So no, not in the slightest. I would have never expected this to happen, but it was a great route my life took.
Well, and I wanted to make sure that I thoroughly, completely congratulated you because you have been doing a great job. And I've been watching your videos now for a while and watching your growth. And it looks to me like that you are giving your audience true value in what they want. And so my hat is off to you because it's not the easiest thing in the world to do. And you've been doing a bang up job of it.
Thank you so much. That means a lot.
Well, good. Okay, so, all right, now we'll get into crypto a little bit. How did you find crypto?
Yeah, so I guess the story really starts. I started investing in 2019, and I'm an engineer. I'm a biomedical engineer. I work in a surgical robotics department. I always found tech heavily interesting, but it was I got involved in the Tesla community back in the day, and everyone around me told me I was an idiot. They're going bankrupt. Elon Musk is a wild card. But I always thought I saw something that other people didn't get. And at the time, I didn't have much money, but I put what I had into Tesla stock. And I very quickly realized the power of investing and understanding things at an early stage. And I kind of went around looking, and couldn't really find anything that really was attracted to me. I'd heard about cryptocurrencies at the time, but I always thought I don't really know what this is. Never bothered to research it. I thought it was really interesting that when Bitcoin crashed in 2018, that it found a bottom. I think that told me that there was value to it and it was going to stick around because it didn't just go to zero. So one day I finally thought, hey, everyone told me I was dumb for investing in Tesla. Maybe this crypto thing has something to it. So I watched one video on cryptocurrency that was probably a 5-minute long video. And I think it triggered 6 more hours of video after where my mind was just entrenched in the idea of crypto.
Yep. The first video that I ever watched about crypto was by a guy named Don Tapscott. And it was just about blockchain. And I was hooked. And then that was in about 2014.
Wow.
I didn't invest. I watched every crypto video that I could watch. It was mainly all about Bitcoin then. And then I didn't make my first crypto purchase until December of 2017, I bought myself $1,500 worth of Bitcoin at $15,000.
Wow. That's crazy.
35 days later, it was $3,000 and stayed down there for a year. So I didn't exactly feel like a genius at the time about being a crypto investor.
Yeah.
But then in January of 2018, 2018, I ran across, a year later, 2019, I ran across XRP and started watching videos there. And I don't know, when I looked at the company, I looked at the tech, I looked at the leadership, and I looked at the problem that they were solving. And I was like, and then compared that with the legacy financial system that we've got now, Swift. I was just like, man, there's no way in the world that this is not going to be a situation of when, but if. And so somehow or another, I ended up with, a rather large bag. I also own a couple of other cryptos because I'm like a lot of the other influencers that I hear in our community. I'm a crypto utility maximalist. If it has a good problem that it's solving and the tech works, probably a pretty good chance. And then they got great leadership in the company, probably a pretty good chance that they're going to do well over time.
Yeah, so I remember when I first found out about XRP, it was kind of funny. I was looking into Bitcoin and Ethereum, and I was kind of talking to my dad about it. We were kind of both going through talking about it, kind of learning about the tech. And one day he came up to me and he said, "What about this XRP one?" And I said, "You know what? I don't really know." And I went onto YouTube and clicked on a video, and sure enough, I'm pretty sure it was a Moon Lambo video, either that or a Kevin Cage one. And I just started watching them. And I was like, this is what I was looking for. Like, I understood blockchain and I understood crypto, but I couldn't really wrap my head around exactly how it was going to integrate into our traditional financial system. I saw Bitcoin kind of as this like revolt against our financial system, which I thought was cool. It was kind of like an apocalyptic, or kind of like how gold bugs kind of see it, which I got behind and I liked that, but it was hard for me to really see any transformational technological innovation when I saw how Ripple was positioning XRP in a way that actually made the digital asset useful. And of course they're all useful, but it was adding a lot more utility onto what was already built. That's when I kind of had that moment and I said, wait, this is a lot bigger than what I originally thought. This made me understand. When I started understanding what internet of value really meant, that's when I really started to say, okay, this is something big.
And how about the tokenization of everything?
Yeah, no, and Ripple's been doing a lot about that recently. The thing that really I think stuck with me is the way they position XRP to be liquid to anything. And that, to me, when I started wrapping my head around that, I was like, this just doesn't exist in our traditional financial system. And liquidity is what caused '08. Liquidity is what caused 2020, the March crash. And when you have an asset like XRP that could solve that in the snap of a finger, and Ripple's onboarding the banks with clean OS and say, hey, you don't even have to worry about all this technical stuff. We'll handle that, and you just get to use the power of XRP. That's when I said, hey, this is a good combination right here.
And with your engineering background, did you find what did you find when you really kind of dug deep into proof of work? Did you find any potential flaws in it when you started looking into that as a blockchain?
So proof of work was confusing to me at first, and then it started to make sense because I didn't understand why they had to use proof of work. And then I slowly realized it's because of this issue of distributing the token. And it seemed like this was just some convoluted way to try to get the token out there. And I get it for Bitcoin. Like, it's kind of cool that anyone can run a Bitcoin node. And I understand the appeal of anyone being able to do that. And it's like financial freedom. It's just that there's other more efficient ways to confirm transactions out there. And even if it's not decentralized among every single person in the world, it can still be decentralized and efficient at the same time without using the amount of energy of an entire country. So I'm fine with Bitcoin having proof of work. I think it's very smart to have an opt out in case it ever does need to get out of proof of work, a second plan. But Bitcoin's never going to be what XRP has the potential to be. And I think it's better if Bitcoin maxis come to that realization and say, hey, we have something great. We don't need to make a centralized lightning network and pretend we're XRP.
Well, very well said. And you know who else I believe came to that same conclusion?
Who's that?
Vitalik Buterin. That's why they're creating consensus layer is what they're calling it now. And by 5023, I believe they'll have it fully functional.
I'm a lot more worried about, I don't know the technicals about what they're doing over at Ethereum with their proof of stake. I haven't taken the time to really dig into it. I know it gets delayed every year anyway, but that concerns me a lot more than proof of work because I see a lot more centralization problems with confirming transactions based on how much of the asset you hold. They could have ways around it. I haven't looked much into it. But I know when I was watching some very early interviews with Hugo Filion, the CEO of the Flare Network,
yep.
I remember him specifically saying, we were so lucky we didn't go down the proof of stake mechanism for Flare. And that really made me think, hey, what Ethereum might have their head set on building this new consensus model into Ethereum. I mean, Ethereum 2.0, I think Flare is going to be 10 steps ahead by the time that launches either way. And they're just going to be getting to proof of stake.
Well, yeah, I believe that too. And I didn't ask you where you were from, but I think you can probably tell I'm Southern. I live in North Carolina, been born and bred Tar Heel my whole life. And both of my parents graduated from the University of North Carolina. So I'm a real hardcore Tar Heel basketball and football fan. And when I saw that Michael Jordan was going to come out with NFTs on the XRPL, I mean, that's like a dream come true. And what is going to happen when people have got the choice of using NFTs on the XRPL and they're hearing it from Michael Jordan as opposed to these fees?
No, I completely agree. And it's so funny to me, like that barely got any attention out of any other news site outside the XRP community. Can you imagine what any other, like the promotions all over social media that would have been happening if any other blockchain landed a deal like that? But the good news is I feel like all that price potential hasn't been realized in XRP yet. And in typical XRP fashion, when it is realized, it's going to be quick.
Yeah, I believe it is too. And one of the things, I don't know if you've ever heard of an influencer, a guy named Alex Becker.
I have, but I couldn't think of a face right now.
I've been in internet marketing for 10 or 12 years, and I ran into Alex in that niche. And he's 35 years old, and he makes about $2 million a month off of 2 software companies. And one of the things that he got into crypto and he did very well, very fast. And he did a good job of explaining to me that the bottom line is when the average Joe runs across NFTs and he runs into Ethereum, they're not going to pay these fees. I mean, they're just not, it's just not practical that once this hits the masses. Now, the ones who are drinking the Kool-Aid, they don't care because they love the idea, and the miners don't care because they're making plenty of money. But when you get to average Joe on the street, he's not going to pay $25 and have an $80 fee for anything.
Well, I think that's an optimistic scenario too. I think once average Joe starts using Ethereum, I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if there's a point in the future, unless they seriously fix this, where you're going to have issues where people literally can't move Ethereum because the fees are so high. Because we're still at adoption points that, I mean, we're looking at 1998 of the internet. So you can only imagine how congested Ethereum is going to be if they don't have some real solutions coming down the road. I mean, I've thought before that there might be a point where you literally can't move Ethereum without paying a $10,000 fee or something like that. We are very early and they are having some serious scaling problems.
Well, Connor, yeah, I see that too. And Connor, I can tell that you're just like me. That I feel like it's difficult for me to be able to put myself in 1998 and to be able to grasp just how early that we are. But I mean, we have no idea how big. I mean, look at Google, look at Alibaba, look at Amazon. And some of these companies, not all of them, but some of these companies in 10 years are going to be at that level.
They're going to be they're going to be bigger. For sure. I think Ripple will be bigger than what Amazon does. I mean, Amazon did a lot for moving retail goods from point A to point B. I mean, Ripple is going to be heavily involved in transforming our financial system. And that's why I think it's so funny when people see like, oh, XRP can't go to $100. I was like, it just depends on your time frame. I mean, you're looking at Amazon at $2 back in 1998 and it went to something like 3,000. I get it. That was a crazy run for the stock, and it's hard to wrap your head around something like that happening, but no one understood what Amazon was doing. And that's the same point we're right here in crypto. No one understands it. I talk to all my friends who are engineers, who work in surgical robotics, who work in coding. They don't understand crypto. They're completely lost. We are so much earlier than a lot of people think. And I think people get very confused when they go onto crypto Twitter and see a lot of different people talking like they know what's going on. That is such a select community that you are engaging in. I have rarely found anyone in my personal life, not online and not like meeting people like you, that actually understand what they're talking about. And people don't realize how early we are. We're insanely early.
I mean, it's hard, and I have got to try and remind myself on a regular basis because I mean, it is staggering. And especially when you begin to look at the internet of value, the internet of everything, and then start understanding the payment options behind the scenes, the cross border that will bridge. If the whole world goes the CBDC route, they're going to be on an island together if they don't have something that bridges them together. Well, I mean, RippleNet can hook them all together, but you got to have something to move it around.
Yeah, no, it's gonna XRP is being positioned to be that bridge asset, and I think it's looking very, very good for CBDCs. But when you just think about it, there's gonna be so much that we couldn't even comprehend today. There's gonna be use cases in the future that we're like, how could we even thought that could happen? That's the same thing that happened with the internet. I remember in a David Schwartz interview, he said when we were first building the internet, or when he was watching the internet be built, he said there was all these use cases and we thought, oh, the internet's really cool. But we never thought of Netflix. We never thought of Uber. We never thought of these companies because it was really hard to envision it until the infrastructure was there. And I think we're going to see the same thing with cryptocurrencies. And the thing is the big money's behind crypto. All the developers want to work in crypto. Like companies like mine, they can't find developers anymore because they're all in crypto. And that's how you know there is something serious going on behind the scenes. And it's just getting started.
Okay, so now let's switch gears a little bit and switch over to the thorn in our craw, and that's our wonderful conduct of our SEC. So, protecting us. Dumb retail investors that don't know nothing, that they're protecting us from whatever. So yeah. How did you first see that? And then how have you seen it develop in your own mind? How is it turning around? How's it going on in your mind now?
So to be fair, I didn't know a lot about Ripple, the company, or XRP when the lawsuit first got dropped. So I wasn't too involved in the community yet. And I kind of saw it and I said, oh, well, this is kind of weird. I remember reading through some of the complaint and kind of just being like, all right, well, there's a lot here, but I remember when I was investing in Tesla, they also got sued by the SEC, and I watched Tesla slap the SEC across the face, walk right out of there, and the stock pumped 1,000%. So I said, all right, well, something's going on here, but I don't really know exactly how this makes too much sense, because to me, I kind of heard the mumbles of this could be a security, this could be a security, but I wasn't seeing any like logical explanation on why that could be the case. I started really watching the videos and watching the research that was being done by people like Jeremy Hogan and then John Deaton. And that's when I started to become very, very obsessed with the case in terms of how monumental it was going to be for the cryptocurrency industry. And then I slowly realized, like, hey, Jeremy Hogan and John Deaton's fighting his own battles. Jeremy Hogan is a busy lawyer. He can't be making videos all the day. And there's so many people who want to see updates on this case, and I love reading into it. So I started making videos, and yeah, ever since I've been following this case extremely closely. It's gone better than I could have ever imagined for Ripple. I thought they were going to be in a much worse place. And now I feel like I'm watching Ripple and XRP holders sue the SEC.
So do you feel, this is one of the questions that I always ask Attorney Hogan. If you were Attorney Teniero, he's, I think, the lead SEC attorney, how would you be feeling about the status of the case right now? And what would be your next legal move if you were the one in charge of the SEC's case?
My first legal move would be to tell Gary Gensler I need a serious raise for the shit he just put me in. But I don't know, to be honest. Like, it's really hard to say. They made some very tactical mistakes. So they had a very good case against Ripple for securities offerings in terms of contracts, like the stuff they did with Greg Kidd. XRP they sold to R3. I mean, it's a classic Howey analysis. We all know it. They sold XRP in a securities offering. That has nothing to do with XRP being a security. So I kind of felt like they had a slam dunk case against Ripple. They could collect a fine, say XRP is not a security, create some clarity for the digital asset market, go after token sales. They already went after ICOs. They could go after the sales Ripple was doing. They could make something where, hey, for your ODL product, this is clearly you not selling XRP to profit. They're instantaneous transactions, clear differentiation. And then maybe the rest of the XRP that Ripple sells out of escrow, maybe they have to register it. Who cares? As long as XRP itself isn't a security. I mean, it seems like there's a pretty easy compromise there, but the SEC is making some very interesting accusations, such as going after Brad and Chris when they themselves probably thought XRP wasn't a security. I mean, that just seemed like a tactical mistake. And you see the information now that Ripple is getting because of that tactical mistake. And I don't really know where the SEC really goes from here. It seems like to me they have to settle this case with Ripple or risk going to summary judgment and giving a free pass to the rest of the cryptocurrency industry. I've thought this entire time that they would have settled already, because now it's getting risky with them having to turn over those Hinman emails. I'm surprised they haven't settled. Maybe they're just so stubborn they want to go to the distance to create clarity. I doubt it, but it's hard for me to really see a next move. It seems like their best move is to try to hide the Hinman emails, hope the judges drastically change their mind. I mean, the judges said on day one they see XRP as having currency value and more utility than Bitcoin, Ethereum. I mean, how do you pursue a case after that?
Well, the one thing that I found very interesting too is the tenacity that Teniero and the SEC attorneys are holding firm, that it doesn't seem like they want to turn over these emails. I mean, if my memory serving me correctly, they said no to the judge when they requested turn the emails over 4 times.
Yeah, I think we're around there. Right now, they just went through their second privilege claim. So they just claimed attorney-client privilege. They already got turned down on the first privilege. And from what I understand, talking to the lawyers, this one's even more of a long shot than the previous one. I always say on my channel that all of this is just delay tactics. The SEC brought a case they probably can't win because of how much they stretched on it. So I think right now the only weapon they have left is time. That's the one thing Ripple doesn't have. Ripple doesn't have time. Their business is being hurt in the US. So they're going to delay at any chance they get. The only logic for why they would be doing that is to force Ripple into a settlement that is more favorable towards the SEC. But the SEC knows Ripple's not going to settle unless XRP is a security. So I don't know where they are in those negotiations, but I have a feeling Ripple's not too concerned about paying a big fine. So, God, I wish I could ask Gary Gensler some questions about what's going on in that agency, but that doesn't seem like it will ever happen.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's very infuriating. And I know that some people, I've kind of gone back and forth on Hester Peirce. These days, I'm a big fan again, because I think that she has been doing the best that she could with the hand that she's been dealt. I think that she sees how absurd all this stuff is, but she doesn't want to get fired.
Yeah, I
And,
agree. That
and
would be less helpful. They would put in someone who else is
yeah,
more crypto unfriendly. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm glad to see her there, and I'm supportive of her now. Do you feel like that there's anything in those emails that if they were, I've heard things both ways. Do you feel like that there's anything in those emails that would be so damaging to the SEC that it would be game over?
So yeah, I'll comment on that real quick. I just wanted to say in terms of Hester Peirce, I was in the same boat as you. She said made two quotes that essentially she put her ass on the line and said that the SEC has not regulated the cryptocurrency market to a point where projects know whether they're a currency, security, or commodity, which is essentially fair notice gold for Ripple. And she
Yep.
put her ass on the line. And I think that's enough for her to confirm to me, like, hey, you went out there, you stuck your leg out, and you gave Ripple a fair notice gem. I mean, how can you argue there's fair notice if one of the SEC commissioners is coming out and saying there wasn't fair notice? I mean, it's completely contradictory. Could you say your second question again? Sorry.
Yeah. Do you believe that there's anything in those 68 drafts or 63 emails, whichever? Do you feel like that there's something in there that is so damaging that it would be game over if the SEC were forced to turn them over?
So before I speculate on it, I will say that almost every single lawyer I've talked to, which is I do DM Jeremy Hogan a decent amount, Fred, Bill, almost all of them say that the SEC's actions at this point on these emails would imply there's something extremely damning in there. I haven't seen all these lawyers all agree on something before this unanimously. And saying that for them to all be going an extra step and predicting that there is something very damning in there, it seems like they are pretty convinced there is. So that way I don't feel as bad saying that I fully do think there is something very damning in there. And I actually just got an interesting piece of news I picked up on earlier today. So earlier in the case, Attorney Solomon essentially made a statement to the court and said, hey, there might even be a statement in there like giving clarity or saying we don't know about XRP or we do know about XRP. So I talked to Fred on my channel and he said, yeah, I thought that was pretty interesting, but I don't necessarily know if they know that or they were just saying, hey, as an example, this is why we need to see those emails. Well, earlier today, Stuart Elderati did an interview and he said that when you see the emails going on at the SEC, the Bill Hinman emails, you will realize that the agency was in something like complete disarray or something like that. But what that made me think is that Stuart Elderati knows exactly what's in those emails because we know that 3 of Ripple's attorneys were working for the SEC prior to it happening, but you don't just drop connections. They still know people at the SEC who work there. So I'm not saying they've directly seen them, but I am fairly confident they know at least 65 to 75% of what's in those emails. And I don't think they ever would have taken this case this far, Ripple, or even maybe they would have settled this case beforehand. Who knows? But if they didn't have evidence they knew of, that could help them win. And based on how hard they're fighting for these emails, I think there is something that would kill the SEC's case in those emails.
Right. I like that. So let me ask you this. I think this is an appropriate use of this. My drop the mic moment in the case so far has been the SEC's flip-flop on it's not the opinion of the SEC, it's Mr. Hinman's opinion. And then they pulled the rabbit right out of their hat and said, well, actually, it's the opinion of his division, not of the entire SEC. I mean, do they not understand that they just probably had Bill Hinman perjure himself in his own testimony when they changed the story on him like that? But that's been my favorite jaw drop in this whole thing is when they flip-flop on the official position of Hinman's speech.
Well, the funniest part about that too is they've been investigating Ripple since 2018. You would have thought they had that part figured out, you know? Like, that seems like a critical detail you might have thought about before you brought this case. I mean, they're acting like Ripple sued them. It's insane. Like, the fact that you wouldn't already say, like, oh, this is how we're going to address this very damning piece of evidence that Ripple's obviously going to. How do you pivot on that halfway through the case? I remember Jeremy Hogan made a video and he's like, this doesn't happen. Like, you don't do this. Like, if you murder someone, you can't murder someone and come back later and say, oh, actually, it was I didn't mean to. It wasn't. Like, you don't do that in court. So I thought the SEC was a lot smarter than they were when I first started studying this case. I brought the same question up to Fred when he was on my channel. And I said, Fred, like, is there any strategy behind that move, or is that just a tactical mistake? Because I can't wrap my head around how that could have been a good idea, but I don't necessarily, it was hard for me to really believe that you could make that mistake because they had a 3-year advantage on Ripple. And he said it had to been. He said he can't see any logical reason why that would have been a good move for the SEC to pursue. And that's kind of when I realized, like, hey, there's something really weird going on behind the scenes. I don't know what it is, but I mean, these guys might be corrupt at the SEC. I have a hard time believing they're dumb. They did pass the bar. That seems like a critical mistake. I mean, I'm picking up on it. I never took the bar.
Well, it looks to me like, and I believe that there has been the old boys network alive and well in America for a long time. And I think this kind of thing happened on a regular basis. We just didn't know about it. But social media now has made everything so transparent. When we can get, the truth in our social media. Thank you for buying Twitter, Elon. But I just, when I look at it and see that Clayton went to One River and he said, I've never heard of these people. And then he's got it on his calendar that he met with them. And
like the next day too, they caught him on that.
Yeah. And then Hinman, talking to the ethics office, Bill, we really don't think you ought to be talking to those people. And he just completely disregards it. I mean, who are these people? I mean, I really don't think that they expected anybody to be able to find that stuff and to be able to make it public. I mean, and the thing is the shamelessness of the fact that we found out that kind of stuff in our community, and they still want to hold fast and just keep delaying and delaying and delaying. Just makes no sense.
Yeah, and I think the part that really confuses me is there was a lot of animosity towards Jay Clayton and that administration when they were leaving the SEC, and they were on the opposite political spectrum as Gary Gensler, who was walking in. So Gary Gensler had a very easy opportunity to come in and get a lot of people very happy with how he was regulating the industry. I'm shocked that he didn't take that opportunity. I thought it was a layup. You couldn't have done worse than Jay Clayton, and somehow he's actually done worse. There's a very small part of me that thinks maybe that he's trying to expose the corruption that went on at the agency by dragging this case out, because there are some skeletons being dug up. And if this thing was settled earlier, then you don't see Empower getting involved. You don't see Deaton getting involved in the lawsuit. Now, I might be giving the SEC too much credit again, like I said earlier, but just something else that goes in the back of my mind. I thought of too many scenarios on how this goes on behind the scenes, but that's always something I found interesting.
Well, I think all of us, since we've had to deal with these delays, have had the time to go over all of the different kinds of possibilities in our head. But do you think, I've seen some things in my lifetime that were just shockers. And it would truly, to me, be a shock if Ripple ended up losing this. Do you see any kind of a scenario with everything that we've seen up to now that a judge could look at that and say, yeah, I think Ripple is guilty as charged?
Well, I do think it's possible that Ripple does get called guilty on selling XRP in the past and pay a fine. Like, I think that's actually probable to happen, just because we've already seen that the way this court operates, they like to give Ripple a big win and then the SEC maybe some little wins. And I just, based on how the court has operated so much, I do see Ripple getting a fine for selling XRP in the early days. But the only thing that matters for us is XRP is not a security, and Ripple can go forward doing it. And I think even if Ripple loses, the real loss is XRP a security or not? I think there's a 0.000% chance that happens. And it's the fundamental basis. If Ripple disappeared tomorrow, XRP still trades with value. Does the SEC all get together and then say, okay, XRP is now a security of Spendabits? It doesn't work because XRP is not a security. I said the other day on my channel, and this is just a thought experiment, but if XRP was a security of anything, it's a security of the XRP ledger. The value of XRP depends on the health of the ecosystem around the XRP ledger. Depends on all the validators. It depends on all the project. It depends a little bit on Ripple, but it depends on everything. If Ripple went away, XRP still has value. If the XRP ledger went away, XRP doesn't have value. The SEC's problem there, they have no one to go after because XRP is not a security by the definition of what a security is today. XRP is much more of a commodity. And honestly, I think John Deaton getting into this case, he's going to be presenting information on how much the XRP ecosystem contributes to the value of XRP. I think it's going to be very obvious to the judges, not only that XRP depends on so much more than Ripple. Yes, Ripple drives value for XRP, but it's not a security of Ripple. It doesn't give anyone rights to Ripple. And I think just by us being in the case and us being so passionate about XRP, it's going to make her realize there's no way I'm going to nuke all these XRP holders. And on day one, too, she did say XRP has currency value. It has more utility than Bitcoin, Ethereum. And from what she saw Bill Hinman get on stage and say the SEC does not consider Ethereum a security. I mean, that should have been enough for the SEC to realize XRP will not be declared a security by this court. Yeah. Maybe on a court that didn't understand cryptocurrencies, we got very, very, very lucky with the judges, but I don't see these judges doing it.
Right. And so how did you end up switching gears a little bit? How did you decide to go into engineering?
So, honestly, there wasn't really much to it. I mean, I grew up in an engineering-oriented high school. I've always kind of liked tinkering with things. So the computer I'm doing this all on right now, I built when I was little. I was really into woodworking contraptions. I used to, when I got a Nerf gun for Christmas, I would have the whole thing taken apart in seconds, and I was taken out of putting bigger springs in it and all stuff like that. I kind of just pushed me down the engineering road, and yeah, it's always just kind of been something that I like to do. I'm also dyslexic, so I have to stay away from anything with writing or else it gets messy. So engineering was a good route for me.
Gotcha. So from that foundation of your background, when you look at what David and Arthur Brito and Jed McCaleb put together with the XRP ledger, how brilliant do you feel like that is, especially when you take into account that, what is it, 8 to 10 years old now?
It's mind-boggling. And the crazy part is
that it works so well. Do you understand what I'm getting at?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've seen that original David Schwartz patent too. I think it was like 1998 or something like that. I mean, that's the year I was born. That's before the internet boom. And it's incredible. And I am a tech guy. I'm an engineer. I cannot even tell you, like, I understand how the XRP ledger works enough for me to feel confident investing in it, but it still blows my mind that they thought about this thing so long ago, and it is insanely impressive. And I can't even imagine where it's going to be in 10 years from now, 15 years from now, when they can really start scaling it up and putting these new innovations in place. Like, it's going to be wild.
Well, I know from talking to you that you're familiar with Moore's Law.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that has astonished me the most about the XRP ledger and the tech, because we can see clearly, and I know, if the BTC maxis hear this and it makes them go wild, then go find Joe Francis and start a television show. All right. But the tech's outdated, dude. I mean, sorry, Satoshi, but it's outdated. Proof of work doesn't scale. It was a grand idea. It was a great Trojan horse to get crypto out into the human mind, and but it doesn't scale. But then when I take a look at the fact that XRP did not really start, David and Jeb and Arthur Brito didn't really start that much later, and their tech is standing the test of time so far. That is one of the most mind-boggling things to me, because what is it? Every 18 months, Moore's law is supposed to come into effect, and so the XRP ledger has gone through that 4 or 5 times, and it's still state of the art. I mean, you're a techie guy. I think you can understand that more than someone that is not coming from your background. But defying Moore's law 4 to 5 times just doesn't normally happen.
No, definitely not. And you're so right. It is incredible to see even something like Ethereum came along after XRP, and it has significant scaling issues. So I mean, Vitalik was working with Ripple, and he could get a product as good as what the XRP ledger was. I would also add on to Moore's law. One of my favorite things to study in any kind of investment is network effects. And network effects are so powerful. And I said earlier on this interview, like, I think XRP and Ripple are going to be so much bigger than any company we've ever seen. Because at the end of the day, Facebook is a trillion, or it was, but $1 trillion company, and it's just information. It's pictures that are worthless. We're talking about a network effect of the financial system. It is insane.
Yeah, it is rather huge if you sit down and try and take a look at all of it. And what I've tried to do is I've tried to look at it like how big .com is, and then understand how big blockchain is, but it's incorporating the entire planet. I mean, and I love what you said earlier too, is that we're going to begin, and it's one of the reasons why I wake up excited. I'm a very curious person, but you were right. And it's one of the reasons I'm so glad we got to talk, because you said that there are going to be some things that are coming along in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years we haven't even imagined could happen, and they're going to be there and be functional, and people are just going to take them for granted. And it's going to be like, dude, you don't understand. I used to talk to people on a bag phone. I'm old enough that I used to have 4 channels: ABC, NBC, CBS, and the UHF channel that came on. That was, you had to be old to understand that. And the telephone had this round thing on it. There was no cell phone kind of thing at all, not even a bag phone yet. And so now I'm looking at all this stuff, but I'm really glad that I'm young at heart, and I'm extremely curious about all this stuff that's going on and fascinated by it. And I see it in a similar way that you do, that I'm just looking up at this like, oh my God, the internet of everything. And we tokenize everything. And then NFTs are a cool thing, but you've got it on a ledger where the fees are okay. I mean, wow.
I do think that's going to be NFTs. I'm not a huge NFT guy, but I think we are going to see so much utility roll into the XRP ledger through things like NFT, through the crappy DeFi platforms that were built on Ethereum. Those are going to be rebuilt on XRP or on the XRP ledger, and we're going to have everything Ethereum had, plus a system that works, and Ripple building one of the best liquidity platforms in the entire world, and we have access to it, and no one can figure it out yet. It's crazy. People would rather be buying the worst. I'm not going to call out any, but some of the things you look at and you're like, where did this even come? Why do you put your money in this when you have such an easy investment in XRP? I'm invested in other projects. Like, I love Quant, HBAR, all these different things, but I don't like to broaden too much, because those aren't being suppressed by an SEC lawsuit right now. So for me, I feel like I'm getting the best digital asset of all time and on the biggest discount ever. I'm like, I need as much XRP as I can get before all of this is priced into the asset.
Well, yeah, and I'm a big Cardano fan, and I'm pulling for Charles Hoskinson as much because he left the Ethereum Foundation and said, I don't want any of your tokens, and walked away from it, because I like the character and the integrity that it took for him to walk away from that. And
Yeah.
because I think he saw that, hey, these guys are not just trying to build a project, they're trying to build the HTTPS of all of blockchain.
Hmm.
Everything is going to have to be built on the Ethereum network. I mean, we don't want to cut everybody else out. And I think that's what Nancy Wotas, I think, is she the one that was with the Brooklyn Project, and she's the one that's looked at it and said, "Well, I'm not too sure if I like that too much," or was it some woman named Jane?
I think Nancy Wotas, if I remember my digital asset investor clip correctly, she's the one where they sat down and she said, "Oh, if Ethereum's decentralized, what about XRP?" That's the
Yeah,
only Nancy Wotas quote that I have
the
stuck in my
I
head.
can't remember but there was another woman, I think, and she was the one that was saying, she was in with the Brooklyn Project, and then I don't think she liked the direction that it was ended up going in. And again, look, I I appreciate the moxie. Ah,
Mhm.
if I could put together, the HTTPS of blockchain, hey, Connor, if you and I could pull that off, hey, dude, great.
Right?
But they tried it and they got caught.
No. Well, that's one of the funniest things about the whole Ethereum narrative in this. It's like, yeah, I mean, it was scummy, but what they did, but let's face it, it worked out for them. Like, I hate to
Well,
say it, but if you can just violate all the laws and get regulators and pay them off to do what you want, I mean, God, I mean, that says a lot more about our government other than Ethereum.
well, it's worked out so far, but I don't think that it's going to age very well for a
No.
couple of reasons. I really don't think that once people really understand how unethical these people are, that they're going to want to invest in that company. And then the other thing is when they recognize that their tech is not going to work until 5083, then maybe we can find something that works better now.
No, yeah, I'm shocked. I am impressed how long Ethereum has been able to hold the developers in the ecosystem with how poorly that blockchain runs. I will say I am impressed with that, and I wouldn't have expected it. But I mean, I just think the days are numbered at this point for not Ethereum necessarily dying, just for other blockchains to really start gaining adoption because people don't want to worry. Like, I stopped transferring tokens because I hated using Ethereum so much. I was put them all in a ledger and I said, I don't want to touch this anymore. Moving these
Yep.
things are costing me more all my gains.
Yep. And I don't think it's going to go to zero either. And I don't hope that it is extinct, but I do believe that once it has competition, that not very many people are going to be using it.
Mm-mm. No, and I think they'll have scaling solutions and stuff will go. And I'm sure they might figure out something to bootstrap it along. But that's not what I'm looking for. I mean, when I see XRP and what Ripple's building, the utility behind that, and what can be built that's already built on Ethereum and even better on the XRP ledger, it's no competition. I mean, it's one of those things. I mean, Ethereum might be like a retail blockchain that people play around in 10 years, but that's not why I'm here. I'm looking for a new financial system built on the XRP ledger, and I know it has the capability to do that with the big banks and the big boys all operating alongside people like us, and I just don't see that happening on Ethereum.
All right. So, my final question as we wrap up the interview portion, Connor, do you feel like that our Congress and our government are going to wake up in time for us to be able to take advantage of the blockchain boom the way that we did our .com boom? Because if we keep messing around, if we keep dicking around, excuse my French, long enough, Singapore and England and Japan and all of these other places in the world that could be financial centers are not going to wait on America. I don't believe all that much longer. We cannot afford as a country $168 trillion in unfunded liability debt. We cannot afford to miss out on the taxable revenue that we're going to be able to generate if we are the leader in the blockchain?
Yeah, so luckily, I do not think we are going to miss it. I think we are later than we should have been at this point. I think it's taken a while to get on board. I was impressed with the executive order, not because I cared about anything in it or it did anything, but Brad Garlinghouse stated openly that it was a lot better than he was expecting. And for him to publicly say that, I think we should listen to, because at the end of the day, he deals with this a lot more than we do. I see people waking up in Congress. I mean, expecting Congress to do anything is a long shot. That's not really what they like to do. Yeah, I think they'll wake up, because I think there's money behind it, and I think they're going to realize they can profit off of it. And I do think they're waiting for the big banks to have their custody solutions in place, have their ETFs all built up, the JP Morgans have their solutions built, and I think they're just stalling. But I don't know if you saw Darren Moore Jr.'s his video yesterday, but there was a clip of Jay Clayton in it, and he said, there's big money already in this space, and this big money is sophisticated money, and this sophisticated money is not investing based on this laws around cryptocurrency drastically changing in the next couple years. Things will change, but not to the point where it changes an investment thesis. And that was paraphrasing, but I mean, you've heard that guy talk. He turns all red and starts jacking up his sentence. Not a fan of Jay Clayton, but not the person I expected to hear that from. And I thought it said a lot hearing it from him. And it did kind of make me realize, like, hey, there's big money behind this, and it's not going as fast as we want it to go. But like we were talking about earlier, we're very early. There still needs to be regulations aren't even in place yet. We're going to get them. The US realizes that they won the crypto industry. They need to win the blockchain industry. I think we get there. It's not happening as fast as I wanted to, but I am confident we get there.
Well, I think that's a fantastic way to wrap up. And I always ask anybody that I do an interview with, or send out or give an invitation that we get back together again in the future and update how we feel like things are going on. And I would definitely like to extend that invitation to you.
Oh, I would love to. This was a ton of fun.
Yeah, I mean, and so we'll wrap up, and I hope everybody enjoyed getting to meet one of the up-and-comers in our XRP Army community. And if you had not run across Connor yet, I hope that what's going to happen next is you're going to go to YouTube and find his channel and subscribe and watch and like and comment on every video that he makes. He's a very sharp, nice guy, and we need more people like him in our XRP Army community.
Thank you, Scott. Well, it was awesome talking to one of the OGs. It means just as much to me to talk to someone who's been around this community for a long time. And it really means a lot to hear you say those things about my channel as I've just got started. So thank you very much.
You're very welcome.